People usually think of public killings and horrible ways to torture people when they think of the worst punishments in history, but there is one kind of punishment that stands out because it is so cruel: how women have been treated throughout history. But why did these punishments happen to them? Throughout history, women have been abused and hurt in many different ways. In ancient times and in medieval Europe, women were punished in horrible ways that were meant to take away their humanity and respect. But what you are about to see is the worst sentence a woman has ever been given. Prepare yourself, because we are about to talk about the horrible past of one of the most cruel acts in history. Spanish donkey. One of the instruments of torture that was utilized in Europe throughout the Middle Ages was the Spanish donkey, which was also referred to as the wooden horse or chevrolet. A wooden plank with a triangular shape and a sharp edge was used as the device, and it was positioned between the victim's knees once it had been placed there. Following this, the victim was coerced into sitting on the plank with their entire body weight resting on the jagged edge. This caused the victim to experience excruciating pain and frequently resulted in severe injuries or even death. It was standard practice to utilize the Spanish donkey as a form of punishment for women who were convicted of adultery, in addition to other offenses such as heresy, blasphemy, and treason. The instrument was also utilized during the time of the Spanish Inquisition in order to coerce people into making false confessions. Breast ripper in Europe during the Middle Ages, a cruel kind of torture known as the breast ripper, which was also referred to as the Spanish spider, was utilized to punish women who were convicted of committing crimes such as adultery, heresy, or other offenses. Following the application of the device to the breasts of the victim, which consisted of 4 metal spikes that had been heated to a red-hot temperature, the purpose of the spikes was to pierce the flesh and rip the breasts off the chest of the victim, which would result in extreme pain and frequently lead to the victim's tragic death. Not only was the breast ripper employed as a kind of punishment, but it was also utilized as a method of coercing women into making false confessions when they were accused of committing crimes that they had not participated in. Not only was the device used on women, but it was also employed on men, yet the fact that the victim was a male did not mean that the torture was any less horrifying. Through the course of history, women have been subjected to cruel and barbaric treatment, and the breast ripper serves as a terrible reminder of this. Scold's bridle. The scold's bridle, which was also referred to as the brank, was a device of torture that was utilized in Europe during the Middle Ages to punish women who were accused of engaging in verbal offenses such as gossiping, nagging, or other similar transgressions. The apparatus consisted of a metal cage that was placed over the head of the victim, and a piece that protruded from the cage was fitted into the victim's mouth. This prevented the victim from being able to communicate with others. The victim was subsequently humiliated and exposed to public mockery as they were paraded through the streets, which frequently resulted in social ostracism and isolation. Not only was the scold's bridle utilized as a method of dispensing punishment, but it was also utilized as a method of exercising control over women and imposing social norms, in addition to serving as a cautionary tale about the perils of authoritarianism and intolerance. The device served as a disturbing reminder of the patriarchal and oppressive nature of society at that time period, a disturbing emblem of the ongoing fight for equality and freedom. The scold's bridle is a monument to the resiliency of the human spirit and a sign of the continued struggle for freedom. The iron chair, inflicting tremendous pain and suffering on those who were suspected of committing crimes or who were believed to be enemies of the state, was the purpose of the iron chair, which was an instrument of torture that was employed throughout history. Iron was the main material used to construct the chair, and it was typically adorned with spikes, nails, or other sharp items. After that, the victim was placed in the chair with the spikes penetrating their flesh, and they were forced to go through the most terrible anguish possible as a way of extracting confessions, punishing criminals, and suppressing political dissent. The iron chair was utilized in a variety of different circumstances. Among these instances, it was used to extract confessions. The utilization of such a gadget brings to light the manner in which power and control have been wielded as a result of brutality and violence over the course of history. In spite of the fact that the iron chair is no longer utilized in contemporary times, it continues to serve as a reminder of the barbaric nature of certain forms of punishment, as well as the significance of maintaining human rights and dignity. The pair of anguish. People who were suspected of committing crimes or who were deemed enemies of the state were subjected to the pair of anguish, which was also known as the pair of sorrow. This torture apparatus was employed throughout history to inflict suffering and disgrace upon those individuals. Metal was often used to construct the device, which had the appearance of a pear and was adorned with a number of blades or spikes on the interior. The gadget was then used to forcibly open the victim's mouth, vagina, or anus. The pear gradually inflated, which caused the blades to tear and rip the flesh of the victim. A number of different purposes were served by the pair of anguish, including the coercion of confessions, the punishment of offenders, and the humiliation of political dissidents. The utilization of such a gadget brings to light the manner in which power and control have been wielded as a result of brutality and violence over the course of history, despite the fact that the pair of anguish is no longer widely utilized in contemporary times. It continues to serve as a reminder of the barbaric nature of certain forms of punishment, as well as the significance of protecting human rights and dignity. Republican marriage, a kind of retribution that was utilized on women throughout history, was the institution of republican marriage which originated during the French Revolution in the latter half of the 18th century. Women who were suspected of committing crimes or engaging in immoral behavior were frequently subjected to public humiliation and disgrace as a result of this practice. In certain instances, women were coerced into entering into a marriage with a republican in order to exert control and subjugation over them, as well as to enforce the traditional gender roles and social hierarchies that existed at the time. In addition to this, it involves marrying off women to men who were of lower social position or who were regarded as undesirable by society. The practice of tying a naked woman to a naked man and then dumping them both into a river was a particularly brutal approach to the institution of marriage in the Republican Party. This was considered as a technique to further humiliate and embarrass the lady, as well as to promote the notion that women were deficient in comparison to males. The harsh means that have been utilized throughout history to maintain authority and control over women are brought to light by the use of republican marriage as a form of punishment. It is a sobering reminder of the power dynamics that have existed throughout the course of human history, that the history of the most horrific punishments inflicted on women is a collection of examples. The fact that women have been subjected to acts of violence and cruelty brings to light the need of fighting for human rights and issues pertaining to gender equality. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the harsh punishments that have been imposed on women? We hope you like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are a history addict, and please let us know about what civilization or time period we should talk about. Also, watch another video here.